sacred community space. I watched it be built up with hands and feet from the same people who are out on the streets with us, responding to raids, taking care of one another. And so I just ask as we move through the night tonight that we lead with respect for the space, respect for one another, respect for the work that we do, and respect for each other's time, okay? All right, thank you so much. Garage.
Everybody stand up, everybody stand up, listen up, listen up, listen up. Move your shoulders, move your body. Focus on your breath. Focus on your breath and gently breathe in. So gently breathe out. Gently breathe in. So you take this breath in, then you close your eyes, feel your feet on the ground, right? And check in with yourself. Check in, see how you're doing, how you're feeling, the tensions, the stresses that are sitting on your body. Own them. Don't try to shun them. Don't try to get rid of them. Just own them. Know those things are just part and parcel of being human and being in these times. Right, as you breathe in and breathe out, feel your feet on the ground, heartbeat. As the room quiets down, you can hear all those other noises that occupies the space when we are not around. Right? Recognize all of that space, all of those sounds in the space. So as you breathe in and breathe out, take this moment to acknowledge that we are standing on stolen grounds. On stolen grounds. Grounds that were stolen from our indigenous communities, right? Our Dakota, Lakota communities, and later on our Anishinaabe communities, right? In similar ways, right? Through assaults, through raids, through rape, all of those other kinds of brutalization. Acknowledge their stewardship, despite all of those things, their stewardship and their ongoing stewardship that allows us to be here. So deep breath in as we acknowledge our ancestors. Let's also acknowledge the ancestral gifts of our Black community, right? Who suffered all kinds of tragedies and genocidal practices, right? Slave catchers is today's ice crackers. Right? Let us not forget that this has a long history. It didn't just start last year. Right? As we breathe in and breathe out, understand that we are here despite all of those challenges that were put on us. As you breathe in and breathe out, right? As Tupac Shakur often say, roses do grow out of concrete, and we are the roses. Right? There's generations that are coming after us, 7 generations that are coming after us. And we are here to build that sense of community for them. Together we will be strong. Right? So as you take a deep breath in, hold that breath, let me breathe out. I want to invite you to take care of yourself, right? Today, you need to stand up. The bathrooms are behind you, right? And any questions you can ask any one of us here. So please feel free and take care. And remember to breathe throughout the presentation.
Everybody. My name is Danielle. I'm the Director of Policy and Advocacy at the Minnesota Freedom Fund. We're here tonight because immigration activity in our neighborhood was met with force from our local police department. Members of our community have stepped forward as constitutional observers. They were trained to document government action so that power is exercised within its legal limits. And so communities are not left alone or unseen. Instead, these observers were forcibly met by St. Paul Police Department. This occurred in a city that has a separation ordinance that this council receives. And that ordinance was put in place to ensure protection and safety. Accountability cannot exist without transparency. Our constitutional observers understand that. It's at the core of the work. Reporting harm and creating trustworthy record is centered in all of our trainings. It's how we know that the truth is preserved and how violations are addressed and how community protects ourselves. Community has done its part. We came to you, we asked to speak, we were denied countless times. We've trained ourselves, we've showed up, and we documented the harm that has occurred to us and our neighbors. So now we're looking at our elected officials, specifically the St. Paul City Council and newly elected Mayor Herb. To do more than offer words in a meeting, we're asking for real protections, for real accountability, and real action to ensure that this never happens again. Because when our observers are harmed for documenting government misconduct, democracy in itself is at risk. Behind every real call for accountability is a human experience, and that's what we're here for you all to share. And behind every public record is someone willing to document it. Tonight we have Georgia Ford here, who is an independent journalist who has stood on the front lines with many of us and has objectively documented what is happening outside the walls of the City Hall. She's in community, and I'm going to pass it to her first to share her experience.
Good evening. As Danielle stated, I am independent journalist Georgia Ford. I published an article about what happened on 1125 on Rose Avenue, including more than 30 videos that document the evidence of the brutality that was inflicted on residents, neighbors, peaceful protesters. And I want to source back to that because there have been so many different narratives about what happened on 1125. And as a person who was there and I witnessed it with my own two eyes, it's really frustrating to debate the truth with people. And so if you were not there and you want to see for yourself what happened, I really suggest you go read the article. I'm happy to text a link or email a link as well. As we prepare to share our thoughts and hopefully engage in a productive dialogue that moves us towards action, I really want to encourage everybody to stay focused on St. Paul. I know that that's going to be really, really difficult, but our city officials don't really have much authority on what happens in Minneapolis. And so we could be a lot of places, especially tonight. And so let's just use our time wisely and honor their time as well. Renee Good is not exactly why we're here today, but she's actually exactly why we're here today. We've already done several listening sessions. And I continue to show up because I don't think this council's wasting our time. I hope they're not. I hope we will see more action. We appreciate the resolution. And I think what we heard at the last city council meeting is it's not enough. Mm-hmm. One of the testimonies that really struck me at the last listening session I was at was a gentleman who came up and he said, I saw a federal agent point a live gun at an unarmed, peaceful protester. I saw that too. We have video footage of this incident happening. And what that guy said to the council that night was, imagine what would happen if he had pulled the trigger. But we did not have urgency at that council meeting. We still don't have any action taken for the brutality that was inflicted in the city of St. Paul. And so I just have to be honest.
as a 37-year-old mother.
Yeah.
Just like Renee Good, my baby girl just turned 7, so my youngest is just about the same age as her baby. I have to be honest. What is the action that has been taken? And so, yes, this is a listening session. We'll engage in conversations. We will stay focused on St. Paul, but we do expect action to be taken. There's a few things that I'll just continue to reiterate. Fulfill the data request submitted by Communities United Against Police Brutality. Michelle, have you received your data request? Has that been fulfilled?
No, in fact, I've been denied the data request because now there's an ongoing investigation, so they have an excuse not to give us the data.
So fulfill the data request. That is basic protocol. I also have a data request that's in that I have not received a response about. Terminate the officers who used excessive force on protesters and journalists. This is action that can be spearheaded by this council. Data request, fire the officers. Evidence already exists publicly that this happened. I will describe an incident that we have 3 or 4 different videos of. A woman who had a cane was sprayed directly in the face with mace by St. Paul police officers, and then she was thrown to the ground. A woman who was about 5'4". Who was that officer? Has he been reprimanded? Has he been terminated? And if not, why not? If you all want to develop trust with this community who took time to show up here today to talk about what happened in St. Paul, answer those questions. Fulfill the data request. Provide clear timeline for when the investigation will be completed and publish the findings publicly.
Yes, yes.
We do expect a plan of action. And yes, we're here today to talk, but the expectation is action. We really appreciate the resolution. I think it's a good faith step forward. But if this council cannot understand the urgency of the moment, somebody already painted out what could happen, and thank God it didn't happen in St. Paul. Or we'd be having a much different conversation, but how are we exempt? How are we any different? And what responsibility do each one of us play? When we saw the writings on the wall, someone said, imagine if this happened. And what action do we take? What did we do about it? What has changed? Nothing. And then here we are weeks later, and a federal agent did pull a live trigger, and someone is dead. And so, yes, while we understand this is a different municipality than Minneapolis and governed differently, and we can only here address what happened in St. Paul, everybody in this room goes to Minneapolis for whatever reason. People from Minneapolis come here. We are one community. And so let's stand up, St. Paul. Let's do what we can on this side of the river to demonstrate what good leadership looks like. And let's understand the moment. And please, let's not just sit here and have another night of listening, but let's come up with an action plan of what we are going to do.
So we know that accountability does not stop with simply naming harm. It requires pathways to act. So we've asked the Human Rights Department with St. Paul to come give us a couple ways that if you have, if you were harmed now or at any time by St. Paul PD, how you can file a complaint. I also want to just point out that around the room, you're going to see these QR codes with ACLU. ACLU is collecting testimony of people who have been harmed by federal agents. So Sierra is going to walk through the paths if you are harmed by our local enforcement. This is the path if you are harmed by federal enforcement. So I'm going to welcome Sierra on up. Oh, I'm so sorry. I skipped ahead on the agenda, y'all. I got excited. Okay, so before Sierra's going to tell us how we're going to file those complaints, we're going to move to the council member updates.
Good evening, everyone. Paul Kim, she, her. I represent Ward 5. Just really quickly, I want to compound what Georgia Ford said. If any of you go out of patrol, you know that the agents that shot and murdered Renee Good, they're agents in St. Paul, right? City boundaries don't matter. The river doesn't matter, right? They're crossing over every single part of our Twin Cities right now. So it is very possible that this could happen here in St. Paul. And just on December 21st, HSI opened fire on one of my constituents in Ward 5. So this has been brewing, and we know that this is, everyone feels it. And I'm sorry to also report, it sounds like coming out of Portland right now, HSI has shot 2 people in Portland. So I want to ground us in that, but also to be very cognizant of why we're here. So we're going to provide some quick updates, but before we do that, our colleague is on maternity leave, so I'd like to bring her legislative aide up to just read a letter about, her feelings, but also to help represent our office, and she's out of maternity leave. So this is Melanie Johnson, the legislative aide for Shaniqua Johnson.
Awesome. You did the introduction for me already. Great. Really quick. It was really difficult to get her not to leave her son tonight to be here, but it was really important that she honors the phase that she's in her life. And so I appreciate you all, and I appreciate you extending grace for her for that. So good evening, Eastside neighbors. I'm sorry I cannot be with you in person tonight. I'm currently on maternity leave, but it was important to me that my voice still be present in this space because I want you to know exactly where I stand. First and foremost, I am with you, I see you, and I believe you. What has happened on the East Side in recent weeks, particularly on November 25th, 2025, has caused real harm that is physical, harm that is emotional, harm that is lasting, and harm that did not need to happen. I fully support the council's commitment outlined in Resolution 25-1980, including conducting a full analysis and public discussion of Ordinance 04316 and other legal limitations on city law enforcement, as well as the operations of federal immigration enforcement officers acting within the city of St. Paul. Working with the Post Board to conduct a thorough investigation into the St. Paul Police Department's use of force during the November 25th, 2025 incident, and directed the Office of Financial Services to conduct a comprehensive audit of SPPD personnel, operations, equipment, and supply costs incurred as a result of SPPD's presence during that incident. These steps matter not as paperwork, but as accountability, and accountability is the bare minimum our community deserves. I also want to speak plainly about something else. The actions of ICE in our community lately have been absolutely disgusting. They have been traumatizing, and they have been intentionally designed to spark fear in our neighbors, fear in our families, fear in our children, and that's simply unacceptable. I want to say this clearly and without hesitation, Renee Nicole Good should be alive today. She was murdered in broad daylight, and in that same daylight, East Side residents were pepper sprayed, tear gassed, and abused by the St. Paul Police Department. We do not need a video to prove what people live through. Community testimony is evidence. Pain is evidence. Trauma is evidence. Congress is not acting. The DCA is not acting, and history has shown us that no one is coming to save us. That is why I believe this, as a constitutional observers, we must protect one another. We must save ourselves and our neighbors. I will continue to do everything within my power to ensure that at the very least, the St. Paul police officers are not assisting or enabling those who continue to terrorize our community. Not now and not ever. Accountability is not anti-safety, transparency is not anti-police, and demanding dignity is not radical. It's just necessary. I'm deeply grateful for every resident who showed up tonight, those who will speak, who refuse to be silent, and who continues to love this community enough to fight for it. I stand with you, I believe you, and I'm committed. Now I'm moving forward to ensuring that what happened here is confronted, corrected, and never repeated. Thank you.
Thank you. And then really quickly, before we go to our updates, we have an opportunity to get a really brief update from the St. Paul delegation. Our delegation chair is here, Representative Maria Isa Perez Vega, and she's also the vice chair of our Posse Caucus. And both caucuses have put out statements, and it's important that we get a chance to hear that update from them. So, Representative, can you join us, please?
Buenas tardes, good evening. Thank you, this is the Georgia Force for making time and being here. On behalf of our St. Paul delegation, and I see our mayor here, who was a former member of our delegation, We've been working on these policy agendas to try our best to protect and to educate. And the space that we're in right now, I have to pay homage to Indigenous Roots because it comes from organizing from our Indigenous communities that have been dealing with the catching of the injustices post-Middle Passageway with our brothers and queens of Africa. This space is relevant, and when we talk about the work at the Ledge as the Posse Caucus, is that we are not here to be the help. We are legislators. We are elected by the people demanding that the policy that we come from, that we are surviving and defeating through the systemic injustices, are acknowledged not just by words, but by action. We've seen this as forthcoming as soon as Trump was elected. We also seen the injustices that come from administrations before. And the occurrence of what's happening right now is that we are collectively in place, in spaces, in unity, in accountability, and into action. And as chair of the delegation of our capital city that's represented with local officials here from our local, with county, I see Commissioner Jeong here as well, and with state, I think about whose ward this is. I think about Representative Jeong, and I think about the East Side delegation with a member of ours who is Representative of the East Side, Athena Hollins, our whip, a Black sister in there fighting, calling for justice, who was tear gassed that day. And seeing what she's seen, and is a family lawyer, we know our rights, and I sit on Children and Families Committee to talk about prior, but right now in this moment, what can we do to continue to support? We were the kids. We were the little girls who seen La Migra come in here in the 90s, okay? That never leaves you. It doesn't leave when your friends are deported or your sisters and your brothers are wondering, can they come out, and we're delivering groceries. And if you need groceries right now, we got a truckload that is built up by local businesses. It's just what the connecting of the dots is. Don't let the fear of what they've done to our ancestors who created us divide us. And it doesn't matter what step of history your ancestors were on, you are the proof of existence that we can exist together. And so the services that we are fighting for need to be vocalized with not yelling at us. And I say that because I was one that would yell from the other side, and I understand now what it takes, because I came from that side to not leave, but to bring this movement of sides together. Because it's going to take that for healthcare. We already have families calling again, where can we get our insulin for our grandma? Because that was cut off on the 1st. Be in space. Let's get a plan together. Let's move focus and utilize the leaderships that we have, whether you're elected or not, to make a difference. If you can start at your house and on your block, bring that here. And if they can't come here because it's not safe, bring it back to them. Thank you.
We're gonna move through our updates. So we, the council, thanks to the leadership of Councilmember Coleman, passed a resolution calling for OFS to conduct a financial audit of SPPD personnel, operations, equipment, and supply costs incurred as a result of SPPD officers' presence during the November 25th event. Work to get an independent investigation by the post board. And third, analyze and strengthen our separation ordinance. So some of the updates on the request that we heard very clearly from community that was articulated in that resolution. So the financial audit, the resolution being passed initiated the request. We are awaiting a timeline on OFS. They have the request in hands and they understand the scope of what we are asking. The post-board investigation. This process will follow the completion of an internal affairs investigation, which is underway. Residents can submit a complaint through the PCR, and we are currently seeking clarity from the city attorney's office on the legal approach. Council members will be able to go down to, in addition, council members, some have already been invited, some will be orchestrated, but the first round will be the council president, myself, and Councilmember Yang. We are going to go down to the central to view the body cam footage from that day with SPPD. We are aware that some members of the community have submitted data requests for the body cam footage, and as we've heard, there's multiple factors, I use air quotes, of how quickly those requests can be filled or not at all for the time being. including the ongoing internal investigation. Systems issues sort of system issues lingering from the digital security. I'm not really sure, sorry, I'm doing it, I'm not reading this correctly. I'm gonna pass it to Councilman Ring to give the update about the separation ordinance, which was the last part of the resolution we passed.
Thanks, Council Vice President. Hi, everybody. I'm Nelsie. I'm the council member in Ward 6, so that was where the ICE operations took place in late November. And before I talk about the separation ordinance, I just want to share that being in this space, I came in with a really heavy heart, and being in a space with people who so deeply believe in liberation and justice for all people, including our immigrant, refugee, and undocumented community, is very healing. And so I want to say thank you for taking the time to be here, to be in solidarity with each other, and that we must never give up. We have to continue fighting for each other and fighting for our communities that are hurting the most. And I know that's a very personal issue to all of us, and that's why we are here. I have definitely been swarmed every single day by calls from constituents, even people who don't live in my ward, are calling me about strangers coming and knocking at their doors. Just a couple of days ago, we had an ICE raid on Main Avenue, and many of our businesses of color were shut down for the day. We had a public hearing yesterday where I talked about just being really real about how everything coming out of Trump's mouth are complete lies. He is, everything about the operations, the mass deportations, it's done under the guise of safety, but it is not safety at all. He is stealing our economy, our families, tearing our communities apart. And it's really important that we really change the narrative around this, and that we're really clear about people, about the narrative to people out there. That way they really understand like who is the enemy here. Because while Trump is busy painting the picture of our immigrant, refugee, and undocumented communities as the enemy, that is not the truth at all. The truth is that he is the enemy, and that what happened in Minneapolis yesterday, what happened to Renee, Trump is the person who murdered Renee, and we need to be really clear about that. What I want to share about is the updates on the separation ordinance work that we've been doing. I do want to give a huge shout out to Council Vice President Yu, also Councilmember Coleman, and also my office. Sarah, shout out to you, my legislative aide, who's been working with their offices on this to strengthen it. And I just want to say to everybody who's been sharing your input and comments to the council here, it is not done in vain at all. That is really the input coming from the community that really shapes our work. And what we wanted to really focus on was what are the actions we can do as quickly as possible, and more so really replicating language that other cities have done. That way we can do this as quickly as possible. And I know that this isn't just a one-time thing. It's actually going to look like us most likely coming up with many different, more additions to our ordinance, so that along the way we keep strengthening it. And so I don't want you all to think that it's a one done deal. We're actually going to need to be in conversation closely moving forward in all ways. And so what I really encourage everybody to do is, if you are able to make it next Wednesday, please come to our policy committee. It's 10 a.m. in the St. Paul City Hall Council chambers, because that's where we will be getting a presentation and a briefing about the changes that we're hoping to bring in front of the council. So you'll get to see language of that, and part of what is in there is really language around masks. I know a lot of the folks have come testifying concerned about basically ICE agents covering their faces, and you can't see what they look like. And it's a huge tactic, I'm sure, because if we don't know who is behind the masks, then it's hard for us to identify who they are. And we really need to know how these individuals look like. And so there's language around that. Also requirements around employee training, so that all of our staff know what it looks like, what are the protocols whenever they do encounter ICE. And you all know ICE has been coming inside. We're parking in our parking lots over at the rec centers and the libraries. And what do we do if they try and come inside the library and a rec center? Like, these are really important guidance that we need to have for all of our staff. And so there's language around that. Also, we do not want them in our city lots at all. They should not be there. They have no business being there. And if they are there, it's a disruption to all of the residents, all of the families, the children who are coming inside our public spaces, not only because it's in a welcoming place and a safe space for them, but they want to be able to use a computer. get a book, go and play, be with their family. And what happened on the 25th was a huge disruption to what happened on to our East Side community, because our library had to shut down for the day. They actually went into lockdown. And what was really helpful for them, when I met with our library staff, they said it was really helpful just even hearing the whistles outside. That way they knew something was happening. And so they wanted you all to know that, to encourage you to continue using the whistles out in the public. Also, badge visibility. It was really hard for folks to even be able to get identification of our St. Paul police officers, and that's not how it should be. And so we have language around that too, and it really lays out in plain language what the consequences are if one of our officers refuses to show identification. And so this is just a preview of what we have in the language, and like what I mentioned earlier, it isn't everything, but I believe that this is a council that we care deeply about this issue. That's why we are here, and we're determined to continue finding ways to strengthen our ordinance and making sure that we have the language for that. And I just want to name, as somebody who is in City Hall, there is so much that goes behind the details of just even coming up with language, getting it vetted by our city attorneys, making sure that even the community leaders and stakeholders are a part of that process too is really important to us. And so that's why sometimes the process does seem a lot slower and longer than what we want it to be. But I am looking forward to the work ahead. And if any of the council members at the table here would like to add anything, please feel free to.
I want to just be intentional that this space tonight was intended for community to be able to share with you all. So I just want to pause you. That was great. That was good. But I want to be able to pass off this resource to our community. You guys mentioned the PCR, and so we invited Sierra here from Human Rights. Who's going to talk about that and give us a little update, because I'm pretty sure that the PCR did give a recommendation already that this investigations for Rose Street don't go to IA as they usually do, that it goes through, that they call the mayor to do a separate. So I want Sierra to kind of confirm that, and we'll see where we're at.
Thank you, Danielle. Good evening, Council President, Council members. I'm real grateful to be here with you all this evening. When things feel hopeless, being in community is one of the most healing things. So thank you again for coming out this evening. I'm here to share some information about what is a semi-complicated legal process. So I'm going to give you a high-level overview, but I want you to know that I am here to take your questions, to take your complaints, and to work with you all. There's also a table of resources with additional details, including data and big stack of my cards. So as you leave this evening, please do gather some of those materials. All right. So I am with the Human Rights Department. I'm a coordinator with the Human Rights Department. I do not work for the St. Paul Police Department. My name is Sierra Cumberland. When we think about police officer accountability, there are a few different layers to this. There are criminal court proceedings where there are criminal charges filed. There is civil litigation, and then there are processes like the PCR. The goal of the PCR is to hold officers of the St. Paul Police Department accountable as employees of the city of St. Paul. Our commission is composed of 9 community members. I was formerly a commissioner. Mayor, we can say mayor now, Mayor Herr was formerly a commissioner, as was Councilmember Wood. We served together. So quick plug, PCRC is always looking for new members. If you are interested in getting involved, St. Paul residents, send me an email. So the PCRC is a review board. The PCRC reviews completed investigations. And so in order for a matter to come before the commission, complaints need to be filed. Complaints need to be investigated, and that is when the commission has the ability to review a matter and issue recommendations on what the outcome of that complaint should be. So in the process, a complaint comes in, it gets reviewed. It gets reviewed by the Internal Affairs Department or Internal Affairs Unit of the St. Paul Police Department. And under the standard process, it gets investigated by that internal affairs unit. That is our current model of civilian oversight here in St. Paul. Now, as Danielle alluded to, at the December meeting, the PCR did cast a vote in the public portion of the meeting, calling for an independent external investigation into police actions in the Payne-Fallon neighborhood on November 25th. Under the ordinance, the PCR ordinance, the mayor of the city of St. Paul or the director of the Human Rights Department have the ability to hire an external investigator under city contract. Now, as was alluded to, there are a lot of laws that impact this process. There are many, many considerations that goes into what that looks like. But I am here to share with you that vote did take place. That was a unanimous vote that happened on the public record. Now, after a matter is investigated, then the commission reviews all of the evidence. They watch body cam footage. They spend up to 20 hours a month looking into these cases, and they issue recommendations to the chief of police. Under our current model, the chief of police is the decision maker on whether or not a complaint is sustained and on what level of discipline is issued to officers as employees of the city of St. Paul. So,
But
I am a big believer in informed consent. So yes, I am here to take your complaints. I brought complaint forms with me. You can file them online. You can file with me in person this evening, or you can grab one of my cards and we can set up a time to meet in a library, community center, or I can come out to a nonprofit organization such as this and meet with you in person to take your complaint. But it's important for you to know that under the laws that govern this process, for complaint to go before the commission, there does need to be a statement from the complainant in their perspective and a signature to it. You will see on my complaint form a lot of information, a lot of boxes for contact information, personal details, but the legal requirements are a statement that has a signature to it. So know that if you file a complaint with the PCR, it will be reviewed by law enforcement. I want you to know that before you file with me. But I also want you to know that those two pieces are the legal requirements that need to be filed. If you have any questions about this, I am here to work with you. I live in Ward 5 too. I'm a St. Paul community member. My cards are in the back. And if you have questions, I'm staying right here. So feel free to grab me for a conversation if you would like to file a complaint or just talk more about what that looks like. Thank you all for your time and your attention to this matter. It is sure appreciated.
I do have one question here for you. So there was a law that passed in the state last year around this. Can you give us some more information about how we can get our city council up to date?
The PODPA,
That would be it.
2023, that grants our city council authority to issue an ordinance that makes the civilian oversight the determiner, not just giving recommendations. You all have the power to issue that ordinance. Will you issue an ordinance like that?
So I can answer some of that. So on the 28th for the Public Safety and Community Wellness Committee that we established last year, we'll be reviewing that policy. We'll be inviting Representative Cedric Frazier to come present on it. I'm committed to it. In the last, I plan on sponsoring the bill. I plan on sponsoring and supporting that resolution. We still have to review that policy. But I do think there are some things, as this investigation is active and going on, we want to be very cautious of not changing the ordinance that could actually, slow down this process. But I'm fully committed to adopting those changes.
But the PCR already gave a recommendation for this process to be investigated by an outside entity. We heard that Mayor Herr has authority to make that happen. Are we in process of making that happen, Mayor Herr?
So I have not been informed that I have the authority to do that. So I will loop back with
All right, as promised, Sierra is going to be in the front part, and so if you want to file a complaint tonight, Sierra will be out there. Again, these are, the only way to get them investigated is to file those complaints, and that is for our local law enforcement, and then a reminder that those ACLU QR codes are around if you want to file a complaint about your interaction with federal enforcement. I'm gonna holler at Michelle over here.
Just real quick, also, don't people have the ability to file with the Human Rights Department directly as opposed to BCR?
Complaints of discrimination that happen here in St. Paul can be filed with the Human Rights Department, absolutely. Additionally, thank you, council member, much better, yes. St. Paul's got a human rights ordinance. And so folks who have been discriminated against here in St. Paul can file a complaint with the St. Paul Human Rights Agency. I've got brochures on that as well. Thank you.
And one additional thing, I happen to be the person that wrote the statute, 626.89, rewrote subdivision 17. I would be happy to help you to strengthen your civilian oversight because we made it so you can.
Thank you, Michelle.
Okay, I'm gonna kick it to Chantel, and we have, Chantel's gonna lead us in our process of how folks can give their testimony tonight.
So how many folks have a testimony? Can I see us raise your hand if you have testimonies? Not a lot. Cool. That's not a lot of 3, 4, 1, 5. Okay, so I guess you could line up at the microphone over there and over here if you would like to use this microphone on either side, and we can just get started. That seems easy enough.
Thank you all for being here. My name is Mark Goldberg. I was at 609 Rose Avenue as a constitutional observer. Vice Chairman and I saw each other quite a bit there. The police there were out of control. One thing I would ask the council, you kind of talked about it a little bit, but all of those officers were masked with their badges covered. They looked like Gestapo. That's coming from a Jew, okay? So it really was very an unnerving situation. I was tear gassed there 3 times. First time was when the police officers said that an ambulance had to come through. No ambulance came through, the crowd was still moving, and they tear gassed all of us. Second time, I was standing next to, actually, Representative Tina Hollins. She and I were chatting. There was a person directly in front of me who was a community activist, and right on the other side of him was the police. At we were standing in front of 605 Rose Avenue. The gentleman who owned 607 Rose Avenue asked the community activist, "Hey, come on over, I want to talk to you." He started walking over to that. They tear gassed us from a distance of about 2 feet. She told him, sure. It was that hurt a lot. The third time, after the people were being removed from the building, the crowd started surging and moving forward. We're walking along. I'm trying to keep an eye on the crowd. I'm standing over by one of the bands that they were kind of filing into. I see some movement over to my left. I turn my face and get a face full of tear gas. A police officer leaned out his window and started spraying the crowd indiscriminately. Caught me right in the face. That hurt a lot. That was the point when I saw things being thrown. Some people started throwing some items. I've heard from police officers, because I happen to deal with them at times, that, the crowd was violent, the crowd was throwing things. No, they weren't. I'm 6'4". I was standing right in front. If anything was being thrown, I would have seen it. Nothing was thrown. The crowd wasn't doing anything until that cop, I'll use other words, but leaned out his window and just indiscriminately hit the crowd. This was out of control. This broke all trust I have in police. And we need you to act and to try to stop some of this. We can't do anything about it. It's feds. We can do some small things, but at least try to get the police under control because they were not. And yes, I did file a complaint with PCR. It was referred through internal affairs, but I, at this point, don't have a lot of faith in that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Lucid. I just also wanted to talk. I was also at Rose Avenue on that day. And yeah, I mean, there was a lot of stuff going on that day, but I guess what I'll focus on is I remember, because I was in the back for most of the time, so I wasn't there when people started getting pepper sprayed, but I was dismissed from the back and walked up front. I was looking around, seemed like things were calming down, so I texted the people who I was with and said, hey, like, where are you? Looks like things are calming down. And right after I sent that text, I saw a police officer tear gas someone directly in the face right from their vehicle. And I mean, they fell to the ground. And I guess I just want to reiterate that to me, walking out front, nothing felt dangerous until the police started tear gassing St. Paul residents. So they are the ones who created the danger. So I just really wanted to emphasize that. Also, I don't know if this is the space, but tomorrow at Eastside Freedom Library from 4:30 to 6:30 is a resiliency happy hour. Come through, be with others in community. But yeah, I don't want to take more of your time with that. Anyway, thank you.
Does anyone else want to speak?
Hi, can you hear me? Hi, my name is Marlene Liebrick-Straker. Grew up in St. Paul, alum of St. Paul Public Schools, and currently a special education teacher at St. Paul Music Academy, formerly North End. So part of special education law and education law is that every child has the right to a free and appropriate education. Now, in my school, we have mostly Hmong students, we have mostly Latinx, and for months, like the past couple of months, many of my students have not been able to come to school because they have family members who are targeted by ICE. Getting on buses, waiting for families when they send their children to school. I had one student I did not see all week this week. This was our first week back after winter break. Didn't see him for the first 3 days, and I knew why. When he came in today, I screamed and I hugged him so tight because it is his right to a free and appropriate education. And my question is, how are we going to protect our children? How are we going to make sure that they are able to access their appropriate education, no matter what?
I'll help to answer that. So starting tomorrow, actually, we're going to be asking for people to show up at the high schools because we're planning to surround the schools and protect our children to make sure that they can get in safe and get out safe. So if you live in a local high, you got a local high school around you. I'll be at Como, right? That's my spot, but there'll be a board member at every single school along with SPFE members and other community members that are willing to show up to make sure that our kids are safe.
Thank you. And I am a result of St. Paul Public Schools. I know we can do this. I know we can take care of our own. But we just gotta know how. So if you wanna know which high school is in your area, ask one of us, we can help you. Also, like, a lot of your schools are like in need of things, like families in need of food, in need of clothes, resources, because they are too afraid to leave their houses. They are too afraid to leave their apartments. Let's be their community, because we are. Thank you.
I guess I never formally introduced myself. I'm a school board member for St. Paul Public Schools. My name is Chantal Allen, and I'm one of the co-founders of Black Lives Matter. So please help protect our babies, because those of you who really know me, you know how serious my heart is about our kids, and that's every single kid in the city of St. Paul. So please show up if you can, before and after school. Lock arms. Go ahead.
Yes, my name is Asia. I'm a product of St. Paul Public Schools. I went to the EMS Academy in 2012. My first time marching for something like this was when Trayvon Martin died, and around the time I graduated. So I'm not unfamiliar with marching. Actually went to the military after that and thought I could make small changes in the military by marching left, right, and skirmish right while marching. That only got me ostracized and almost fought every morning and every day to cuss people out. But and I'll do it proudly. But I'm here because I do have nieces and nephews who are growing up in the St. Paul Public Schools. I do have friends and family who need support and don't know who to turn to. So if there's anything that I could do to help, I gladly help anybody here. Anybody who's fighting to be heard during this time. Cause yeah, I'm not for play.
That's what's up. Anybody else would like to speak? All right. Hey.
Hi, my name's Rebecca. I'm a 36-year-old mom. I just moved here from Florida last year because of persecution and because of politics, because of wanting to be in a community like this. I was at Rose Street. It's not far from my house. It's in my neighborhood. I've never done anything like showing up at a protest before. I've never had something like that happen so close to me. I've never been that close to a gun to be honest with you. I have never been that close to a machine gun. When SPPD showed up, they showed up in riot gear. They have said that they were at another event using that riot gear, which I have not heard what event that was or why. They showed up at 11 o'clock in a neighborhood using tear gas when at 10:30 at that library is talk time. There's a playground attached to that community center. And this neighborhood is filled with people of color, of Black people, of Latino people, of Hmong, Somalian, everything. And coming into our community and causing that much harm is immeasurable damage. And there needs to be a reckoning because it's inappropriate, it's miserable. I was driving in downtown St. Paul and I saw one of the officers that shot me with pepper spray just doing traffic control, and we're just supposed to be okay with that. Just supposed to shake our way through to the next day, and I don't want to do that. I don't want to struggle. I want to be protected by the people that say they signed up to protect us. But when you have pepper spray in my face, when you're banging your baton against your hand, you're not protecting me. You're not protecting us. There's nothing more to say. Thank you.
First, I just want to say thank you all for being here. This is a time I know all of us are feeling trauma. I know all of us have a heavy heart. I know all of us are dealing with things right now and dealing with the news and dealing with people that they know who are in danger. I want to thank Mary Ann for this space. I want to thank the stage in the room. I want to thank our leaders here. So one thing I was mentioning a little while ago was that the chief has the sole discretion on what is happening with these cases that our civilian review board brought forward. And I want to read a quote that he gave to Fox 9 a little while ago. We want law enforcement to come together and start having a conversation because right now there's like a tug of war happening between the two sides, talking about ICE and the community, and we're becoming the rope. We could be a leader in Minnesota for the rest of the country if we found out a way to do this. Do you want more conversations with ICE?
No.
How are we supposed to trust the leaders to make these decisions, to decide what is happening, and to make sure that not only are we having responsibility for what is done, but that they can protect us? Accountability is more than just saying, oh, you did something wrong and there was damage done here. We need to know that they are having our backs, that they are not only just staying there passively watching, that they are here to support us and be on the front lines. And I don't see that from an agency and a leader of an agency who says, I want to work more with ICE and have greater collaboration with them. He said the reason they were at Rose Avenue was not because of immigration enforcement, because ICE called because of felonies. But we saw what happened yesterday and how the leader, Christy Nome, said in response to what we saw with our own eyes, they are willing to lie and they continue to lie. So how is our police department taking them at face value when they are lying and endangering, saying that we were violent now? People who are there, they know the real story. I don't have a ton really to say beyond this. But one thing that I said, maybe it might have been 3 weeks ago, I said at the city council, and it was mentioned in the Eastern District Police meeting that somebody had asked, what would St. Paul Police do if there was somebody threatened to be shot there? And there was silence there. And we saw what happened. This is not protecting and serving.
Right.
And if they want greater collaboration to make sure that ICE activities are more efficient because they think that's going to make us safer, they are not counting all of our neighbors as our neighbors. We are here as a community. There are plenty more people who would not feel safe to come here. We all know that. A little while ago in this space, I heard a story from somebody who said that ICE tried to pull them out of their vehicle and only the seatbelt was what kept them inside there. And they had to accelerate away. I don't know how long ago this was, but that could have easily been Renee Good in St. Paul. And St. Paul Police, they are for us. And that comes from the leadership. And that comes from looking at, there's been department leaders who are not currently in St. Paul anymore with the new administration here. And Axel Henry, that needs to be the next person to step down or be forced out.
We got one right here, but you can get in line though, because we're kind of bouncing back and forth. I'm not going to deny you, my God.
Hi there, my name is Melissa Green. I live in the Midway neighborhood. I was there at Rose. I was probably like maybe when a dozen people were there. I was there and the police were already there. And it felt, it was a bold-faced lie that they said they came because of chaos and because of violence from the crowd. They were already there at 9:03 a.m. And there are pictures of that. And I think lying straight to the faces of the community is messed up, and it is not doing anything to help us trust that they are there with good intentions. I also think, as someone who is privileged to have not had much interaction with police, I don't know what uniform means what.
Yeah.
They all looked the same to me. They were all acting the same.
Yes.
And I think a suggestion for the separation ordinance is finding ways for them to identify themselves.
Yes.
Behaviorally, visually. I know we can't control how the feds show up, but I mean, I didn't know who was what. They all had guns and they were scared of me.
Yeah.
That's really it. And I also think too, the only way we got information about what was going on was from Marianne and the representative who was on the scene.
Yeah.
The police weren't telling us shit about what was going on. And that, if someone had just stepped up as a police officer and said, hey, this is a situation, I don't know if we would have believed them or not, but at least we would have had more official communication. It shouldn't come from the community to figure out what is going on. It shouldn't. The police are there. They have more inroads with these people. I don't know what that means, but I mean, they're more peers with ICE than us.
Yeah.
So ICE is more likely to tell them something, and it shouldn't be on someone who lives on the block to go around and shout, this is what's happening now, we need this. It shouldn't be on us. We're not paid to do that. It's not our job. So thank you so much for listening, and I'm really grateful for this space.
Thank you. So I was on Rose Avenue that day too. I'll give my testimony when everybody is done, but I think that there is something that can be done. I'm kind of a nerd and I hate when I show up and expose my nerdisms. But I was watching this special on PBS. Yeah. It was the history of the DFL. And the very first female legislator, Representative Kane, passed a law, her very first one, that was an anti-masking law. And it was to combat the Ku Klux Klan. It's still on the books. Minnesota Statute 609.735. Go check it out. It exists and it gives exceptions for religious and athletics and for fun, so you can go trick-or-treating. It gives like 5 different exceptions. It seems like it's covering everything in our community, but it's not being enforced. It's a misdemeanor, $1,000 fine, which every time I look at a group of ICE people, I'm like, ooh, that's good city money. You know what I mean? On the school board, I'm always counting cash. So I'm looking like bleep, bleep, whoop, whoop. So I don't know. It's out there. I've passed it to some legislators. I know Representative Lee is working on getting something a little bit tighter that's very specific to law enforcement. We'll see how it goes. But I want y'all to know about it too. There is something we can do. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you. I know I already spoke, but I wanted to talk because I met someone from West St. Paul last night, and I don't trust police. I'll just say that. But from what they had said is the police department there has responded totally differently. If they've seen ICE stopping people, they intervene and try to make sure people get home safely. And they've complained that ICE is in their communities. So I guess that is to say that, like, there's not an excuse. People are taking action, and if talking to representatives in West St. Paul is something you could do, I would recommend that. So.
Hi, good evening. Thank you all for being here. Thank you. I see that there's a lot of faces that look like me among the council, and that's a refreshing thing to see. I want to start by saying first and foremost that nobody is illegal on stolen land. So a duality of identities exists because not all immigrants come from one place, but the immigrants, especially that are Latino, Latina, that come from the southern lands, these are their lands. And at the end of the day, it shouldn't matter. I also want to be very clear, and I think most of us already know this, but you cannot reform an organization that was built on capturing enslaved people for their runaway masters. So when you talk about police accountability, as somebody else already said, it looks more than just naming harm. And you all are in a very beautiful position to do something with the power that you have, that your people, that us that have elected you, to do something about it, to think outside the box, to imagine bigger. When we say, oh, well, it's hard to get body cam footage released because it's tied up in it. Why? Those are arbitrary rules that were made up. Every rule that we have is an imaginary rule. And it didn't exist at some point or another. So why are we letting red tape and imaginary lines dictate what is actually happening here and now in front of us today? I live in St. Paul. I live in Frogtown. I work in Minneapolis over at NAC, at the Native American Community Clinic. And I was at Southside Harm Reduction today where I watched them pull guns on people. I watched them take away a patient that I had been taking care of. And as I've already heard multiple people say, it doesn't matter, the borders are imaginary. So yeah, we have different governments for this and that, but the problem is interwoven. So my question that I'm not necessarily expecting an answer to, but as an invitation from your very beautiful words, what actionable things are you actually going to do with the power that you hold? Because saying, oh, how can we make the police are doing what they were designed to do. The fact that there's police who are doing not what they're designed to do is beautiful and mind-blowing, that they would exist out there to say, oh, we're gonna help these people home, but that is not the norm. They are, by engaging with ICE, doing exactly what the system intended them to do. We cannot build something new with the master's tools in the master's home. So it's an invitation to think outside the box, to be bold, to be brave, to be as brave as you're asking your constituents to be when every single one of us goes out there to face the police, to face ICE, knowing we might not make it home. I have been a victim of police brutality, and not even in this state, but in another blue one, from campus cops. So it's clearly a problem across the board. And if we think that it's as simple as, oh, well, how many of them showed their faces and what happened? Not a damn thing. They get publicly doxxed, but what does that matter when they have all of the money standing beside them, backing them up? Let's be clear, the police here are no different from the police in Israel, in Palestine. Exactly. They train together, and they are justifying the things the same way they justify the murder of Palestinians is the same way they justify the enslavement of Indigenous and Black people, the murder of Indigenous Black people, the way that they're justifying the murder of an innocent mom who now has a 6-year-old son that was left behind. I could go on, we could all go on. But I'm asking you to look around at these people. You're clearly here because you care and you have good intentions. And I can tell that there's love there. You're our sisters, you're our aunties, you're our mothers, you are the community. And you have a very unique position to do something other than just say, oh, well, it's going to get tied up in policy, or we'll enact a policy, but we don't want to tie these things up. Red tape is imaginary. So what actionable things are you going to do? Thank you.
Hi, I'm Chino. I'm a dancer here in Indigenous Roots. I grew up here in the East Side, grew up on Beach Street. And then I moved to South Minneapolis, and I'm back in St. Paul, so I love the Twin Cities, and that's all I've ever known is my home. I was there on Rose Avenue for the 5-hour standoff for a man that ICE had no warrant for, that is currently being sent between detention centers here to Texas, back, and it's experiencing torment in those detention centers. And that's just a reminder to let everybody know that Rose Avenue hasn't ended yet. None of the incidents that we have seen so far have ended. And there are people and our neighbors are being taken away, disappeared, and being put through torture, essentially. When I arrived to Rose Avenue, I drove around first to warn neighbors before I actually showed up to the scene. And like someone said earlier, at that point, there was maybe like a dozen people outside. When I drove around, what I saw was a van, one of those like, white vans that we're seeing so often now. And it was just sitting at a stop sign for a good minute. And I pulled up behind it, and then the van started moving as soon as they realized I was behind it. And after a couple of blocks of driving behind this van, the van pulled into a church parking lot and sat there. I had already taken a photo of their license plate, and then after the 5 hours of the standoff, we cross-referenced that license plate with the van that, if you remember the video of the person with the cane that was tear gas, the van that they were standing in front of was the same van. And so just to reiterate that the St. Paul Police Department or whoever is in that van, because we then saw police officers go into that van and leave the scene after those 5 hours. They were there early in the morning before there was a crowd to control. And so there is definitely there was definitely a sentiment that people, observers trying to protect their neighbors are being criminalized, are being seen as violent people, and are being seen as more violent than the actual people who are kidnapping our neighbors, who are throwing people on the ground, who are macing people straight up in the face, and pushing elders to the floor. So I'm not really here to say much about police accountability because I don't really believe in it. This past weekend, there was another family that was being helped by some folks in our network, and he was being followed. And when we were able to have a moment alone, he told me that in the time between he was being followed and where he was able to be somewhere safe, he found a police car. He told the police officer, like, help, I'm being followed. And the police officer said, I can't do anything to help you. And this is a common thing we're hearing again and again from people who go to police when they're being chased, when they think they're being stopped, when they think they're being about to be abducted, and the police say, I can't help you. And so my question then is for the city council members to reimagine what safety looks like and how safety can look like this room right here, of people taking care of each other. Somebody earlier was talking about how tomorrow and today there's people protecting the schools and protecting students. That is a correct response, right? The correct response is that our neighborhoods, our cities, are people protected. And it is a direct example of how we keep each other safe, right? It's not armed police. It's not, the police officers who we see time and time again, be the ones who commit the brutality that we see. And I'm appreciative of everyone's efforts for, having these community dialogues and trying to, have community conversations again and again about how we can make this a safer place with the police still existing. But it's not something we're going to see anytime soon or ever. And so just really thankful for everyone here who continues to show up for our neighbors, for our children. And thank you to the city council for, listening to us today. Thanks.
Hello, my name is Rachel. I am a resident of St. Paul, and I've already heard it twice, but in case third time's charm, I was there at 9 o'clock in the morning, and the police pulled up right behind me. So they were there. They knew, they were there early. They came, they talked, they left. They identified that this was not SPPD action, that it was in fact ICE. We already know that they didn't have a warrant, because if they had a warrant, they would have been in the house. And they want to talk about the potential for there to be some sort of car, crash, whatever. If Jeffrey was running from them, then they were chasing him and they had no fucking right, because he did not have a warrant. And what they are doing is racially profiling, which we know happens all the time, but they're continuing to do that here. So what I want to think about for a second is the word sanctuary. We are supposed to be a sanctuary city. Just for a minute, maybe less. I want you guys to close your eyes just for a second and take a breath and think about what it would feel like to be in a sanctuary. I want you to feel that in your body. That feeling is a form, for me, of safety. It is a form of connectedness. It is a place where we all can be together and accept one another and help one another and protect one another. And that is not what happened on Rose. That is not what the police are doing for us. They are not protecting that. We are calling ourselves constitutional observers because we are observing the Constitution. After I was observing a vehicle that drove me to my house and parked in front of my house to let me know that they could use a computer, apparently. I decided that it needed to be put on paper, not because I think SPPD is going to do anything, and not because I think that, it's going to make it any better, but the reality is we need to document what's happening, right? So I went to the police station and I told them, hey, there's a gap here. You guys are saying that you are here to protect and serve us, but what about these other people that live in a sanctuary city where everybody's supposed to be safe? Why are they not being protected? And if you're not going to do it, then you know what it's doing? It's leaving us to do it. And I'm good. I'm going to continue to do that. Yeah. But they are escalating this situation. And you need to think about what's going to happen when that happens, as that continues to happen. And we know that. And I will tell you that the morning that she was killed, I observed an action where they pulled up on a Cadillac Escalade and attempted to rip the driver out. And I mean rip the driver out, pull that door open and pull that person out. And that person must have had their ID ready because they gave it to them and they literally just walked away. There was 6 of them surrounded them. And then they turned around and started coming at us. And they surrounded my car and I actually drove away. I drove away and I'm here. These moments happen. I am here to continue to tell you that we need to do what we need to do to protect one another. The SPPD is going to do what they're going to do, but the reality is someone told me that they were there on that day because Mayor Carter is no longer the mayor. Yeah. I know that that may not be an official statement, but the reality is ideas like that don't bubble from the bottom up. The person who said it to me was supposed to be Police Officer of the Year a couple of years ago. Those ideas come from the top down, that there is somehow some sort of political power that's shifting, and now they get to behave in a way that is inappropriate. What? Inappropriate, okay? We are in a moment that we need to be protecting one another, where we need to be challenging these systems that are definitely not here to protect us, and we need to create something different. I also want to say very clearly, the separation ordinance, there were officers on site that day that had on HSI vests. SPPD uniforms with HSI vests over them. That is not separation. That is actual coordination. And it caused a lot of confusion. Yeah, it's horrible. I will go even further to say that the reality is that the community had that situation in hand with the fact that we had Jeffrey protected. They were not going to leave with him. They were not going to abduct him because they shouldn't have been there in the first place. And what they did was they called the SPPD for backup to protect them. SPPD moved everybody over to the side and SPPD built a way for them to get out. They built an escape route for abductees to take this man out of his own home. After those abductees told Jeffrey that we were moving because we no longer cared about him. Because we didn't care about him. We had been there for hours. 4 hours. And there is no way that we would have left had they not come in with everything that they decided to show up with. I have so many more things to say, but I'm just going to be grateful for the space. Thank you all for being here. And I really hope that we can do something to make a difference in this moment because it is pivotal and something needs to change.
Hello, everyone. My name is Cameron. I am a resident of Ward 7. I'm a newer resident of St. Paul and only lived here for about 3 years on the east side for 1. And I just wanted to first off say thank you to everyone here. It's wonderful to see everyone here, and I feel very grateful to be, as a new resident, welcomed here and heard here. So thank you all very much for your willingness to do that. One thing I wanted to maybe put a finer point on is I've heard a lot of frustration from a lot of people here today about delays, about bureaucracy, about a form that needs to be filled out, about a committee that needs to be set up, about a meeting that we have to wait 3 or 4 weeks on in order to be able to make a decision, to be able to make a policy change, to be able to implement the things that we're talking about here. I think it's very important that we recognize that bureaucracy is violence. Yes. That when someone goes hungry because they didn't have the time to fill out a form, that's violence. So when I hear, I very much appreciate council members, you being here, Mayor, you being here. But when I hear, the updates that the post-board investigation, well, that's just ongoing. They don't really have an update for you there. When I hear the financial audit, that's ongoing. They've heard us. They're preparing to start something, but we don't have an update for you yet. When I hear that the data request, no update there, if I heard correctly. And the separation ordinance, that we're continuing to work on that. We're gonna have policy meetings, we're gonna have committee hearings, we're gonna have all of these things. Those delays are allowing the things that we saw in November, the things that we saw earlier this week, to continue apace without any action being actually taken. And so I really want to make the point clear, and I echo, I'm so sorry I didn't catch her name earlier, that she said that you have the power to do things. You have been elected to do things and been empowered by the residents of Minnesota, the people of St. Paul, in order to do things for us as our representatives. So Again, I thank you for the work that you've been doing, but I hope that you remember the next time you want to go for the excuse of, I can't do that because my hands are tied by policy, that we have community members whose hands are being tied by the cops.
Yeah.
We have community members whose hands are being tied by zip ties, by handcuffs. So I would encourage you to act instead of talk about acting once we've got all of our ducks in a row. Thank you very much.
I'll shake. Don't have to leave, Rebecca. So, my name is Patricia Amstad. I have lived on the east side of St. Paul since 1985. Which is a long time. I like to tell people that I fled the suburbs because I knew they were wrong. And I knew that I didn't want to raise my children in communities that I would consider to be impoverished. And I chose the east side, and I feel I chose really wisely.
Yeah.
At one point in time, the police needed to live in the city of St. Paul. In fact, there was a police officer, I didn't enjoy him very much, who lived on our block. He taught the Little League team how to cheat, but I won't go into that right now. I guess I did. Anyway, well, I feel really strongly about having grown up in a lily white neighborhood. We had one black family. I'm embarrassed to tell you that the guy in the band's nickname was Token. That's how white my world was. And I live here now, and I know that my beloved friends of color spot things, but I will tell you what I spot as a white woman. I spotted the disdain of the St. Paul Police Department for this community, and I cannot say this more strongly. So part of city council here, sitting here, mayor-elect who I love you, part of what I am here to say is that police department has disdain for the east side of St. Paul.
Yes.
The people who were there on Rose Street, I was late because I was at City Hall in a hearing trying to get rid of that god-awful CVS, which is going to get torn down. I arrived late, and I can tell you, all of my beloveds were there. The most upstanding people I know on the east side, I found were between me at the library with all the police people, and that is where my people were. And I couldn't get to them because the police were moving up. The police all put their gas masks on. Yep. And I thought, what is it? What should I follow them now? I don't know about that. But I went to the eastern, I call it the Eastern Heights, the Eastern Precinct, and I kind of watched the police People's faces melt when they realize I wasn't there to praise them. They were surprised that this white lady wasn't there to say thank you for protecting me. And some of what is so important for us to think about right now is I know my people. Where are we going to stop? We aren't going to stop. This is not something, Tim, I don't know where you are, but boy, those words chilled me. We're gonna sing kumbaya? We're gonna work this out through conversation? Our wonderful person who was here and she was talking about imaginary brought to mind one of the most amazing poems, because I'm old and I know these things, a poem called Rant. Anybody know the poem Rant?
I do.
The only war that matters is the war against the imagination. All other wars are subsumed by it. There is no way out of this spiritual battle, people. The war is the war against the imagination. You can't sign up as a conscientious objector. I can't sign up here as a conscientious objector. I am now deeply engaged in this fight, no matter how it ends up, because I love my community, all of it. But I don't think our police do.
No.
The war of the worlds hangs here right now in the balance. It is a war for this world to keep it. A veil of soul making. The taste in all our mouths is the taste of our power. And it is bitter as death. Because we have to use our power, and there's no way we are not going to be endangered. And we're going to do it anyway. And we need you.
Thank you. She triggered somebody with that CVS though. Again, I'm a school board member. This could have been a Krispy Kreme. We could have had all kinds of revenue. No, go ahead, brother.
Hi, my name is Jeong. I didn't expect to be testifying today, but here we go. I was a resident of St. Paul for 9 years, and I lived at 609 Rose Avenue for 4 years. In July-ish, I think, of 2020, after George Floyd, our house was shot 3 times indiscriminately in the middle of the night. And when we called police there, they did one sweep and found nothing. And then my partner found the bullet that was lodged in a wall. And then they came back and looked at it. And we were given a business card with a case number, and that's it. So I was not there 2 months ago when the ICE stuff happened. I have since moved to Minneapolis, but it was definitely re-traumatizing, to say the least, knowing what had happened there. And I guess my question would be, why was St. Paul acting the same as ICE? Looking like no difference.
Hi, I'm Guillermo Narvaez. I am a resident of St. Paul. I live in the Midwest. There was something that some of you have said that prompted me to come up here and kind of consider there was an article that just came out a few hours ago on the BLCK Press about an ICE vehicle that called 911 and was rescued, assisted, or whatever by SPPD in the Hamlin University Police Station. At the end of the article, I wasn't going to quote very well. The last paragraph of the article says, quote, "The St. Paul Police Department encourages anyone who feels that they are being followed or unsafe in their vehicle to call 911 and drive to a police station or welded area," the department statement said. Now, from everything that we have heard, how many of us buy this? Let me put a hypothetical. I'm very white passing person. I do have a Latin name. I'm from Central America, proudly so. When I am seen on the road, and I know a bit about police because I worked on police issues since Salvador Castile and in other countries. I used to be a war correspondent at one time, but that's immaterial somewhat. I know reminds me of some things in Central America. But some of the technology that I have seen used by police departments, like, I'm sorry I forget your name, but you were mentioning that you were followed by a nice vehicle to your house. I've heard other people mention this. They're reading our license plates, they see their names. When I'm red, when my license plate is red, I do not come across as a white passing person. I come as a Latino. Can I really trust an encounter with the police on the road? Can I really trust calling 911 for help? Can any one of us trust under a similar situation, the statement that the police department issued today and it's published in the Pioneer Press? How can we get to the point where as a community, we can trust you who we pay your salaries to protect us?
I appreciate your statement because I was followed by ICE just 2 days ago. I had to pull into a public parking lot and eventually they just slid on past me, but it was pretty scary because I usually ride out with a buddy, but my buddy was in the shower when I heard the whistle. So I was alone in the car and it felt very scary. So it's not cool, you know, and we should feel like we can call the police to protect us. But I honestly pulled up on the homeless community, on the unhoused folks, because I knew that's who was going to really protect me. Next.
I don't know if I was stupid or naive, but I thought the chief of police for St. Paul was gonna be here tonight. How come he's not here? I thought I was gonna be able to look into his eyes and tell him exactly what I thought about what he did on Rose Street and what he's talking about. And I'm hoping that you guys, since he won't show up for us, will get back to him about what we're saying tonight. One thing I really I'm worried. So we're here about cops, right? We're here about how they disrespect us and they're rude to us and they treat us like crap. The governor just signed something to bring the National Guard here, supposedly to protect us against ICE. But we know what they did when George Floyd was murdered. They came here and they treated us as badly as ICE is treating people and as the St. Paul police treated people on Rose Street. And now I'm worried that we don't have St. Paul police under control since November 25th. And now we're gonna have the National Guard and ICE all here against us, not for us, but against us. And I wanna know if you guys can do anything or convey to the governor that the National Guard isn't welcome here unless they're going to defend us against ICE. That's all.
Hi, my name is Riley Stefker, and I just want to say I'm feeling an immense amount of gratitude here today for the city council members for being here, for us having representation from the police department, and mostly for the power of the entire community here coming together. I grew up on the east side, and most of the houses on my block were foreclosed when I was growing up. There was a lot of crime. Someone was killed across the street from me, and I think we made a lot of progress here in the city through organizations, through coming together, through doing things just like this. And I think the police have improved in my lifetime. I think that we have made a lot of progress here. And I think that ICE is making that much more challenging. If you're a St. Paul police officer, you should not want ICE in this city. And I think we need to empower our police officers to get them out of our city. So I have a question for Mayor Herr or for the police officer there. When ICE is in our community, they don't have license plates, they're breaking the rules, they're putting me in danger. I almost got hit yesterday trying to protect our community by an ICE member. Are our officers empowered to pull them over, or is this a problem of the federal government having power over our state? Are they able to give them a ticket or not? I really don't understand. Is someone able to answer that for me?
That's why the chief is supposed to be here.
I'll answer. So first I want to say thank you all for being here today. I will say that this is a really tough spot for me, and because I am in community and I am from an impacted community. I've been going to ICE check-ins with people who were impacted long before I showed up in our town here. I carried the post-conviction relief bill to try to help those who have been a part of the criminal justice system, who signed away their rights when their lawyers consulted them and told them that they should take a plea deal. This is really tough for me because I am with all of you. I am from community, but now I am also the mayor of St. Paul. And this weighs really heavy on my heart because the police belongs to me. And I am also doing everything that I can to ensure that we are all working together, because I know that this is what the federal government wants, is for us to turn on each other. And so I told the chief not to come today because he was asked to come. And because there is a current investigation, he cannot speak. And I think it would be frustrating for all of you that if he sat here and he said to you he could not answer these questions, that it would be equally frustrating to all of you. But I want you to know that I am talking with him and I am having these conversations. And I ask those exact same questions, that when can police step in and when could they give tickets? And the problem the chief told me is that, one, they never need a warrant to arrest somebody. They needed to go into someone's house, but all they need is probable cause. And because in statute, the only body that can use force is law enforcement, which means even if they are seeing, and we've watched that camera footage that showed it in our eyes, right? She was trying to flee, but in their eyes, they thought that that was force that threatened them. And watching that footage and watching Fox News and how they are positioning this, I just thought to myself, how could we be watching the same footage and all see something so different? And so when the chief said to me that we can see that that person was trying to go away, but because law enforcement is the only entity that can use force, they cannot go in and just arrest them because we saw what it is that they did. And because the federal government is a greater entity than we are, that it becomes an extremely difficult situation for them to be able to then go in and do that because they're given so much more lenient rights. And so know that I'm asking the same questions, and the chief is talking with me too. And I will say that our council members are the legislative branch. They're the ones who make ordinances, but my job as the executive is to run this city. And so I am very much in agreement with them as to the things that they want to do. And I think that we just have to tighten up some of the language, but my job is to hold accountable. So when I sit with the chief and we're having discussions as to, I don't just want to know the timeline of what has happened, but I also want to know what we're going to do differently. I've asked him to work with community members so that when we show up at a Rose Avenue site, that people who are part of the Immigrant Defense Network, that they're the ones directing the crowd, not police. Police's job is to stand there to protect them, to make sure that they can do it. The chief said, I will absolutely work with community members, and we got the chief and police connected with the Immigrant Defense Network so that they can all start working together. When I asked the chief, will you come to a meeting with me and fire in order for us to have discussion about what happens if there's a shooting in our city? I don't want what happened in Minneapolis to happen here. And so to sit with the foundations who have the money to help us sort of work through this process, that they are all willing, that there are all of these things in the background, that my job is to make the city work, that I'm doing that and I'm here. I wrote down so many of the things you all said, questions for me to take back as well. So I want you to know that I am with all of you. I am in a really tough spot where I want to hold my police department accountable, but I also know that when I talk to my police officers, that they have impacted family members. when one of the commander tells me that ICE is at their door detaining their family member, when they are telling me that they are refugees and immigrants who are also our law enforcement officers, that as much as we are all hurting, that we all give grace that they are people as well. And that I have impacted family members, you all do, we are all in community. And this, I should not be emotional. Someone said to me, you're the mayor now, you can't cry anymore. But I can't help but do that because it is so painful for me to watch what we are all going through. And then to also be responsible for ensuring that I hold the police department accountable as well. So know that I'm with you and I'm working with you and I'm trying really hard. And I'm taking everything you are saying with me so that I can have this conversation with our PD tomorrow. So that's all I can share right now. I will do my best to continue to work with all of you, to work with our city council.
Oh, it's on? Please don't leave, Mayor Hearn.
I'm sorry, I just want to clarify. So if St. Paul police see a federal ICE agent breaking the law, are they empowered to step in there and stop them, or is that something that has to be enacted in federal legislation?
So again, the question was if police sees ICE breaking the law, but here's the problem is that there is that line that where we see it is breaking the law, like just like when Councilmember Yang and I talked last night, she asked, when somebody's racially profiling us, can they step in? And the truth is that we can't, only because the Supreme Court has already told us that ICE can racially profile you. So I'm working, so I actually asked my staff to say that ACLU has a lawsuit right now that they're working on, so that then to say racially profile is illegal, right? For us to bring that lawsuit to challenge what has already been determined. So like things that we all see very clearly as breaking the law, it is not for them. So like if you were to racially profile me, right, there would be consequences to you as a civilian, as a resident, but there's not for them. And so that's a difficulty in that line.
Okay, so
Challenge here, what are we supposed to do if we're coming together to make a plan of action?
I appreciate your questions. It's just that we're on a real tight time frame and we got people lined up still right here and folks that are lined up on this side. And I appreciate you, brother, but I'm wondering, is there a way that maybe you can work with the organizing team?
Yeah, so we have a group that is meeting to continue this accountability, and there is a flyer that says, as a QR code where you can sign up and we will add you to the list. So I encourage everybody to connect with us that way, because we do have a group that is meeting regularly to figure out how we're holding what we're hearing today, the things they've said in previous meetings, how we're continuing to hold them accountable. Because we are watching and we are documenting.
And documenting. So thank you so much for your questions.
So Mayor Hearn, I kind of wish you were up on stage tonight. You're the mayor now. You have the benefit politically of having not been mayor when all of my friends got fucking tear gassed. You're mayor now. And you want to know what you said in a public statement today, an hour before being here, literally an hour, you said, and this is a direct quote, the police are here to keep us safe, and it is on all of us to challenge any perceived cooperation as false. That is, you recorded that today. And so I understand that you care, but the words you say matter. You said that, that is a public statement. And I understand it's good politics, it's good optics. You have to cater to a more conservative audience. You don't want to alienate people. You don't want to pitch the wrong narrative. But I think I speak for a lot of us in this room that we are not interested in good politics. I don't care. I don't care. Our city is under siege. It's been under siege. That could have been my fucking wife that died. And I'm lucky it's not. But all I ask of you, you said earlier today, I didn't know that I was in control of that, or I didn't know I could do that. And I get that, but we need you right now, and I need you to be bold. I need you to do something. Please. I don't care about good politics. Please. So thank you for speaking. Thank you for being here. I understand where you're coming from, but you said those words today. And I'm just not buying it.
Hello, everyone. Good night, or good evening, I should say. We are almost going to the good night part. Okay, my name is Paula. I am a resident of St. Paul, and I'm also one of the operators of the St. Paul Community Action Network. I am reading this statement on behalf of Marianne, who many of you know, our fearless leader. So, yes, I know. Okay, Marianne said Hugh and I send our deepest gratitude to each one of you for choosing to show up tonight. You know our story, two immigrant youth from opposite sides of the world who met each other in 7th grade and built a life together grounded in cultural arts and activism. In the 36 years we have lived in our precious East Side St. Paul, Ramsey County, I felt real fear for the first time in possibly being separated from our dear children when I showed up on Rose Avenue. The people hired to protect us had no regards in protecting us. People were observing peacefully before SPPD showed up. Honestly, SPPD should have arrested ICE for trespassing on properties they had no permission to be on. They didn't even bother talking to our neighbors. We are all exhausted, and yet here we are pushing through and trying to move forward with care and compassion. We are still supporting the Rose Avenue family with post-raid care. I am grateful to our fierce and beloved community members and the St. Paul Community Action Network for answering the calls with requests from food deliveries to providing sanctuary shelter, transporting families to and from work or school or daycare or doctor appointments, and ensuring they have mental and emotional health support. Now, a month and a half later, the Rose Avenue family, along with other families across our city and state, continue to live in fear, isolation, and hopelessness. They have not left their homes since before Christmas. The repercussions of one raid ripples not only in the days and weeks, but years and generations as I think of the babies and youth who will remember and carry these events in their DNA. It is our duty to protect all of our children. The people who love and protect me don't conceal their identity, and neither should law enforcement agents who claim to protect the city and country. So, to the matriarchs running our city, you bring hope, and tonight we call for hope and action. Sergio, our family and Indigenous Roots stand by you in solidarity to lift you up so we can all rise together. If you are interested in being a part of the St. Paul Community Action Network, I will be in the back by this table. Please come see me and my comrades, and we will be happy to talk to you about it and add you to our group. Thank you, everyone.
Good evening. My name is Nikki Malini Armstrong, civil rights attorney and activist. Most people know me from advocating in Minneapolis, but what most people don't know is that I actually got started in police accountability and civil rights right here in St. Paul. I worked for 10 straight years with the then president of the St. Paul NAACP, Nathaniel Kalik, and we challenged the St. Paul Police Department, helped uproot John Harrington when he was chief because he was condoning abusive behavior at the hands of rookie officers. And that behavior was impacting low-income, vulnerable Black people and bringing them into the criminal justice system. So I would urge folks in the room who don't know, and particularly our elected officials, to make sure that you understand the true history of the St. Paul Police Department, which is actually considered the deadliest police department in the state of Minnesota. So we can't be naive here when we're talking about these issues and concerns. And I haven't had a chance to meet you yet, Mayor Herr. I was glad and excited when you got elected, but what I just saw from you at the microphone honestly gives me pause. I have to be honest about it. I wasn't even planning on speaking tonight, but the reason it gives me pause is because as the mayor, honestly, I'm a person who can be emotional, but this is not the time for that. From you as the leader of the city, when there are people who have a reason to be emotional because of what happened to them on November 25th, right? Who were out there on the front lines and only a couple people even showed emotion. People have held it in, so it comes across as disingenuous. And then some of the language that I heard, my officers, my this, my no. These are the tax-paying residents of St. Paul. The police department actually belongs to them. So that language is going to be important, because when we disrupted the city council meeting in order for this meeting to happen, we said that the chief needed to be there. So to just get in the office and make a unilateral decision to let the chief spend the night at home is unacceptable. When we were at City Hall, Georgia Fort specifically questioned the chief about what happened on November 25th, and he gaslit her when she talked about the abuse of journalists. He specifically said something, well, if it happened, even though he should have known what happened. He's the chief. There's plenty of video evidence. I was in Minneapolis and I knew what happened. So we cannot gaslight the people of this city. And I'm saying this as somebody who's paid dues in this city to try to make things better with regard to police accountability. So as some of the folks mentioned earlier, I absolutely agree that we cannot have any more passive leadership when it comes to police accountability. Continuing to say things like, oh, I didn't know, like men said, I didn't know I could do that, or, oh, well, this isn't the time to wait for permission. You guys see what we're up against. You see what happened in Minneapolis, that none of that needed to happen. I'm not even just talking about yesterday. I'm talking about going back to 2015 when Jamar Clark was killed. We warned the city of Minneapolis years before these things happened. That's why we started taking to the streets, because the elected officials wouldn't listen to us. They acted like their hands were tied. As people were being beaten and attacked, you know what the city council would do? Quietly settle police abuse lawsuits and never push for policy changes and never push for accountability. So we had to take matters into our own hands as the public and starting to shut shit down. That's not something that we look forward to doing. But when you have elected officials in positions of power who act like they don't know what to do or what they can do or how to do it, then it's up to the people to take control. So what we're looking for from you all is more decisive, proactive leadership. There is absolutely no excuse at this point. After you've heard from the people, you've seen the complaints, you've seen what happened in Minneapolis, where literally police station burned, and on, buildings, harm. You guys have seen it all. You have the chance to learn from the mistakes of Minneapolis, not to repeat them and gaslight people and pretend that you don't know. The chief should have had his ass here tonight, listening, at a minimum. You don't get to expect accountability when you haven't shown strong leadership and you see what we're up against dealing with the federal government. I don't think the federal government is greater than us. The federal government right now is diabolical. We need local government to stand up for the people that they are responsible for and who elected them into positions of power and who help pay their salaries. So no, it's not about giving the federal government power. If they violate Minnesota law, we need to be looking at how do we hold them accountable. Not saying, oh, well, this and that. This is what we're having to do right now in Minneapolis after Renee Good was killed. We're having to go and research the laws and do the jobs of elected officials for them and point out Supreme Court cases, DOJ policy, and on to show them the power that they have but refuse to use. So I'm here in solidarity with this community. I was one of the people that disrupted the city council meeting so that people's voices could be heard. And I'm asking you guys to take responsibility and to govern differently so that you can avoid the mistakes, the pain, the trauma, the killings that we've experienced in Minneapolis. Right. We don't have to have the same thing happen here, but it's up to you guys in terms of what happens next. Thank you.
speak. I want to be respectful of all of our time here, but, they're here, so make an appointment, get there here while they're here.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Dr. Samuel Xochitl Torres. I'm a Mexica, Nahua, Indigenous Mexican, a member of Calpulias and Noshli, co-chair of the Board of Indigenous Roots. Also the Deputy Chief Executive Officer of the National Native American Boarding School Healing Coalition. The lines that we draw across these experiences are the same. I'm going to speak here just briefly because there's a lot of power in this room. A lot of power that's coming from the people, and a lot of really good ideas, and some very marked challenges that we expect that our leaders take very seriously. I want to also thank the council members for being here today, for listening with open ears, for Mayor Herb, for being here in community with us. Despite the circumstances, it's always good to be in community amongst one another, amongst our neighbors, amongst our relatives. Now, the one thing that I really just need to get off my chest is the fact that we are seeing right now in real time, the old rules of engagement are being thrown out the window. The old rules are gone. The new rules are being written right before our very eyes. We are seeing those new rules being written in policy and in practice. And we're seeing that when our neighbors and our relatives are being tear gassed point blank in the face, being brutalized and pushed to the ground, even though they need a walking stick or a cane to stand upright. We are seeing that when our neighbors are being murdered with impunity. It's all connected. The old rules are gone and the new rules are being written. What are we going to do about it? Are we going to wait for them to write the new rules and then we have to react to them and we have to comply? Because what does complying get us? We know what compliance gets us. They're going to write the narratives that make us look like villains anyway. The leadership of St. Paul, the leadership of municipalities, of states all over Turtle Island need to wake up and realize that we cannot wait for the new rules to be written so that we understand how we can act as community members. Our relatives and our neighbors are being murdered. They're being brutalized. And we will not sit idly by. And as leaders and decision makers, we expect y'all to be moving and leading and acting courageously, because in uncertain times, we need courageous minds. Regarding jurisdiction, some of this stuff has never even happened before. And we're just laying over and letting it happen to us. Somebody needs to step up and say, not in St. Paul, not in Minneapolis, not in the state of Minnesota, and not to my relatives. This ain't no game of politics. This is the very lives of our relatives and our neighbors, our family members. We have to do something because our lives do depend on it. Be courageous. The rules are being rewritten, and if we don't act, we will have to deal with more brutality, more violence. And then one question I want to ask St. Paul Police Department. Are these the thugs that y'all want to associate with? They make y'all look bad. These untrained, reckless, quote-unquote law enforcement officers are making a mockery of enforcement. The training that y'all do, they are spitting on because they do not know what it is the hell they are doing. If I was a St. Paul police officer, I would be livid. Because they are putting y'all's lives in danger too. Now is the opportunity to transform the relationship with the city. We are asking you, we are demanding that you transform that relationship. This is an opportunity to do so. If you align with ICE, if you align with DHS, you're making a decision to partition yourself on the wrong side of history. We do not want that for you all, because y'all are neighbors too. There's an opportunity to transform your relationship with us. The milquetoast announcements from various police departments that are saying it is our position that we will not aid in any immigration operations or proceedings. Those are bullshit. We don't need y'all to sit on the sidelines. We need your protection and to be in the streets and serve the way in which you have claimed to. What about protecting and serving from the thugs and the Gestapo that's coming into our streets? These people don't live here.
No.
We don't want them here. I'm sure y'all don't want them here too. The new rules are being written. What are we going to do about it? Thank you very much.
Juice, Nola Tanishola. Hola, me llamo Isala. I already got arrested back in the summer. I still have a scar from it. Right now, what I'm questioning and what I'm seeing here real time, if we're asking ourselves, are you the same administration that I'm living under, are we all living under? Because I feel like there's just so many things that are just empty when it comes to places of authority. And to add to Samuel, the way that this administration even came into power in the first place, he played it so damn dirty. From the Supreme Court to the fucking Senate. That man is blood money all the way through. And we can say that from fucking Venezuela to here to the east side. My question is to the police force, what do you respect? Who do you respect? Do you respect the law because it saves your ass? Do you respect people? What is the point? The whole point is safety, is it not? No one feels safe in this room. Basics, safety. I've never felt safe living on the east side, to be honest with you. But when I saw freaking Christy Noman go into a house that I cleaned with my mom and try to make it look like a dirty building when I know kids like ran around in that place because it's like filled with illegal immigrants. Are you kidding me right now? No, I refuse to be seen that way. Even if I was white right now. At the end of the day, I'm an American citizen. I guess, whatever the fuck that means at this point in time. But like, either way, like, we are seeing the fall of this bastardized democracy. Like, we just have, the administration has a quota of 3,000 arrests a day. They just upped ICE's budget to $170 billion.
Educate a lot of people with that.
He's making an infrastructure out of war and violence. That is the economy that Trump is on right now. Let's be creative. You have the law. Go for it. Do something.
Hey everyone.
You got 2 minutes.
The president.
No,
I promise to keep this 30 seconds. I spent 8 years in the military, all serving as an intelligence analyst. I've been deployed 3 times overseas to combat areas, and what I'm here to tell you all or ask you all to do, please have a plan for what you're going to do when you encounter police, when you encounter ICE. When things get worse, if they get worse, I hope they don't get worse, but be prepared, please. Please be informed as possible. And please keep your communication secure. Stay off of Facebook. Get on Signal. Facebook Messenger is not secure. Signal is the only secure communication platform. Don't use anything else. Thank you.
We are going to,
I didn't get to do my testimony. I was on Rose Avenue with my wife there. So I want to say that I got on scene, and this was really weird because the ICE agents actually were retreating. And there was definitely observers observing, and we had a moment where some ICE agents pointed some AKs at some folks that were observing. But they retreated and they left. And so I was looking for my wife, and I realized that down the road, the St. Paul PD was posturing. And I know what posturing looks like because I spent 18 days at the Jamar Clark occupation, 21 days at Philando Castile. I did a lot at George Floyd, and I was at Standing Rock. So I know what posturing looks like. And they were definitely posturing, which to me was really, like, that was the part that said, you know, we're in a bad situation. This is the moment where they should have been de-escalating, where they should have been retreating, because the number one thing in de-escalation, this even happens in the classroom. If I piss off a student, I need to remove myself for a minute. They pissed off the community. The number one thing they should be doing in that moment is retreating and leaving. The community wasn't going to harm each other. They just needed to get in their cars and drive off. But they were posturing. In the posturing, that just escalated things. And I'm going to tell you, what I saw on that block that day was worse than anything I had seen in any of those occupations. I've never seen that much fog and smoke and irritants in the air like I saw. It literally felt like we were in a civil war. And it wasn't the federal agents in that moment. They were gone. They were out of there. This was St. Paul PD. So I wanted to give my testimony because I was there and I don't like it. And we need to do something about it. I think you heard enough. Did you take notes? Did you get my notes? Okay, cool. All right, my wonderful wife over there, our beautiful wife will close us out.
we are, yes. Thank y'all. Give it up for yourselves. Thank you for being brave enough to come and share your testimony with everybody. It takes a lot to do that, especially when the people you're complaining about have been hired to be in the back of the room. I want y'all all to make sure if you didn't see these QR codes, please scan the QR codes. Please scan these QR codes. We're gonna wrap up with a Asada chant. If you don't know, we usually in the Black Lives Matter movement wrap up with the Asada chant. Asada Shakur is now an ancestor of ours who was a wonderful revolutionary and fought for liberation and was treated very, very horrible by the same police agency for doing so. We honor the youngest person in the room when we do the Asada Shakur chant. So.
Hello, everybody. I would like to introduce myself. Some of you may know my parents, who are the co-founders and co-directors of this building. Sergio Marian Quiroz. My name is Shisidi Quiroz. And I would just like to say, on behalf of myself and on behalf of my parents, I would like to thank each and every one of you who is in here today, and each and every one of you who has shared their emotions, their testimonies, and just their thoughts and all of your guys' feelings. I know there's a lot of feelings going around. And, you know, I would like to say to the council, it is so important for you guys to hear this. Please remind us on why we elected you. Because this is your job. You want to be a part of community? You want to hear community? This is what it looks like. Every single person in here, this is what it looks like. Sometimes I fear for my life as a young person that, you know, I have to grow up in this and I have to become an adult in this and try to navigate through that. So what are you doing to ensure the future of our young people and of our children? And you don't have to have an answer now, but I definitely would like one. And I'm sure a lot of these people who definitely have children in this room would also like an answer. What are you going to do? Thank you.
Everybody can kind of stand up. We're gonna say, we're gonna ground ourselves, close out with a Asada chant. Everybody to take a deep breath in. And let it go. And repeat after us. We have a duty to fight for our freedom.
We have a duty to fight for our freedom.
We have a duty to win.
We have a duty to win.
We must love and support one another.
We must love and support one another.
We have nothing to lose but our chains.
We have nothing to lose but our chains.
I want you to take a deeper breath. We're going to say it a little bit louder, really feel it in your spirit. We have a duty to fight for our freedom.
We have a duty to fight for our freedom.
We have a duty to win.
We have a duty to win.
We must love and support one another.
We must love and support one another.
We have nothing to lose but our chains.
We have nothing to lose but our chains.
And we're going to do it one last time, real loud. I get loud, so I'm going to put this mic. We have a